split. The massive thing I think you can take away specifically from today's matchup is the fact that Upset, you know, he's a hyper carry player and he does it extremely well. Shut him down maybe, and that's their kind of crux.
What I really think is good about Schalke here is they've shown that they have the ability to fight in the late game and do it and execute strategies in the late game very well. And that actually only bodes better the longer and longer we go through this tournament, because when you match more even opponents and you come to the situations where team fighting and late game prowess really comes into effect, I think that could be really beneficial for them. I, without a doubt, think they'll make it to playoffs at this point.
Ooh.
I definitely think they will.
Yeah, I don't think that's too, like, I agree with you. I'm not sure how far you're pushing out the boat there with them already being in second spot. We're 3 weeks in.
You literally
just got a draw.
You literally asked the question.
I didn't ask, are they going to get to playoffs to Schalke?
You said, is this a playoff
do you
team?
think they're as good as their spring split?
Is this a playoff
That
team?
was for war. If you listen to the questions, Excandral, perhaps we would have coherent answers. We are into picks and... Shush! We're into picks and bans. Kratos and Kallio locked away by Wyndham Main. Schalke have blocked away the Zach and Caitlyn. Excandral, tell me about this pick and ban, please.
Okay, I'll tell you what. This is I love Medic's way of dealing with things. If I could talk louder than you, I am right, which I suppose is a good way. I think this is. So far, it's pretty standard. Kallio has been banned so heavily on updates, so patch 7.12. Obviously, Zach has been 100% pretty much in EU and NALCS as well. Caitlyn, far too dominant in the bot lane to let through the pick and ban phase. These are pretty standard bans right now. Like the fact that they are going to ban away the Elise, it's going to start limiting the jungle pool even more, and that might mean that Wind and Rain first pick their jungler to give something that's sort of left available that Dan can function on.
I like the Shen ban here, actually. It's pretty big. I mean, JWoww wasn't the biggest influencer in the team fights. I mean, he missed a couple of flash taunts, but still being there for his team, very, very readily pressing the R button as well is going to be very important to him. And I think actually taking that big pick away, and it just relieves Smitty J as well, that pressure on him.
A quick thresh pick by Wyndham Main. First pick, as kind of to be expected these days, is going to be the Tahm Kench for Schalke Null Fit. And then the Rek'Sai, we saw them do this last week. Memento picked up that Rek'Sai on that first rotation for them whenever they're on this red side.
Yeah, so Tahm Kench alludes to the fact that they might be working towards another hyper carry for Upset. Generally, that's what you see a Tahm Kench picked for. Or for Kadril, obviously, he has the opportunity to do the same. Memento, you've got a very strong jungler here. Rek'Sai receives some buffs on 7.12, so it's been creeping her way back into that jungle. And here we go.
Nunu
Dan
again.
on Nunu again.
Oh boy. I really like I said, I really like the pickup. I really do. I think it complements his team very, very well. And with that Corki lock in, double AD carry, I mean, realistically, it's going to be a very, very good time for them. Larssen didn't have the strongest performance on the Kassadin, but Kadril bringing it big. I
think if you Wind and Rain, you ban Twitch here. Just because I don't think you want to give Twitch back over to Upset, especially with Smitty J being there on the Tahm Kench.
I think we might see a lot of AD carry bans.
Yeah.
They want to get rid of, you want to get rid of hyperscaling because of the Nunu, so you want to get rid of Twitch, Tristana, probably get rid of Ashe as well if you can. The problem is then you're really looking at the dregs, and Schalke have shown us they like to play that Cog more. Upset's played that before, so there's still a few options, but we are going to be looking really at the second tier of AD carries.
Well, if you ban 2 AD carries here for Schalke and Wind and Rain doesn't ban Twitch, you just pick Twitch.
Yeah, that makes
sense. So, I mean, and that'll suit so nicely for Schalke. I guess you do have Corki now for Larssen, so you have the ability to poke Twitch from range without having to commit yourself as a Kassadin would do. Yeah. So, I guess if you're looking at it that way, you might say, well, maybe we are better off against the Twitch this way. So that could be where Wind and Rain are thinking if they allow this Twitch through with the Kalista ban coming through for Schalke 2.
I definitely agree there should be a Twitch ban here, though. I think otherwise you're really just hampering yourself. You're only looking at top laners left. There's not really a... I mean, maybe a Fiora ban, I guess, as well. There's a few different options. There's still a lot left open because of that AD carry set rotation from Schalke.
Well, prediction game is on point. Fiora is going to be the ban. I mean, one massive pick here. It's got to be. It's going to be Twitch. There was no if and or buts about it. Varus is still kind of on the sidelines here, and I really like it because of the amount of engaged potential they do have in the follow up from JWoww.
What I like about the Varus more so is that it's so good at doing damage to Twitch before fights even start. The problem that Wind and Rain had the previous game is that when they did damage to Twitch, it was then Smitty J just using his Devour, and it was in the middle of a team fight, and it was such a good and useful Devour. By bringing Poke to the table, Devour has to get used before team fights, and it's not as useful.
Well, Cogmore does give you that long-range poke with the Biochem Barrage and the Living Artillery. I like the Cogmore more because of the attack speed steroid from the Nunu. I think the Varus doesn't really synergize with that.
Absolutely.
Not as well, because you're much more looking towards poke, and they are going to take Jace as well, so only Dan is a dedicated tank alongside the pick potential. Not a lot of CC coming out from this Wind and Main lineup.
What I really like, and it's a very small minor point, point, but there's a lot of mixed damage on the side of Wind and Rain as well. It's going to be, it's not, you kind of look at it and go, okay, so 2 AD carries, and then you've got Jason in the top lane, 3 ADs. Not really, because with the Corki changes and Woolite dealing a majority of his damage AP, Shulker now have to really heavily itemize 50-50 armor magic resist. I love the pickup of the Jace as well. Smitty J, though, he's going to pick up that Rumble, and that's going to be kind of a hard matchup for JWoww, especially with Memento on this Rek'Sai, heavily ganking champion.
Just do more lane swaps.
Oh, no, please.
Switch it from level 1, who cares?
Oh.
Do whatever you want.
Please don't say that.
What do you think about these two compositions, Excalibur?
So JWoww, likely for a large portion of the game, will want to split push. He can then join his team, can siege very heavily. You've got good long range poke against, which is very good against Twitch and Tam Kench, because you're going to want to be able to force that to devour out before engages happen. So that's a very important part of this composition. Again, you've got the hyper carry paired with the Nunu. That's when you pick a Nunu, you kind of have to pick an AD carry that functions with attack speed. And actually what I really like about what War have brought to the table here is that they now have an AD carry that could have got through a front line if that's what Smitty J was going to go for. So it was intelligent drafting because they were struggling to get through the Renekton previously. So they picked up a AD carry that can actually very easily and rapidly destroy frontline tanks. And that's why I think Smitty J went for the Rumble. Again, he didn't want to pick a frontline tank because it was so easy for Kog'Maw to just delete him in the late game if that's where it got to.
Yeah, I think Renekton's actually a really good ban there, by the way. Just quickly harken back to the first rotation. Absolutely just a monster. He picked up the Locket, picked up the Gargoyles. There was no way he was going to die. And upset on this Kog'Maw, we've already, no. Yes, am I right? Am I wrong? Yeah, I'm wrong.
Upset on the Twitch.
Yeah, upset on the Twitch, sorry. Everyone there.
Woolite on the Kog'Maw.
Woolite on the Kog'Maw, sorry. Upset on the Kog'Maw did a really fantastic job in his game, and I want to see him bring it to him because Kog'Maw is not necessarily a lane-dominant champion, whereas the Trist was just because of the wave clear. So now it's on Upset to kind of demolish that lane in that regard.
And if you're looking at a carry that plays Kog'Maw and has played Kog'Maw throughout his career, Woolite is one of those carries. Woolite has played a lot of Kog'Maw, so you know this is almost going back to a comfortable pick for him. He's had a lot of experience on this carry, and again he has shown that he's got good positioning in the late game. One thing that I was fairly impressed with him, despite a couple of face checks, was in these teamfight situations, Woolite was the guy that was sometimes keeping Wind and Rain in the fight by just having excellent positioning on this Tristana. So we'll look forward, if we do get to the late game, for this being a really good contest between two very hyper carry AD carries.
Well, we are going to get onto the Summoners Rift for the second game of the series. Take it away, Scoundrel and Jaws.
Thank you very much, Medic. Game number 2. Shulker over on the red. Wind and Rain over on the blue. Shulker 1-0 up right now. Can Wind and Rain secure a first blood, a first turret, or can they just go for the win here against Shulker?
It's so funny because they did none of those things last game. Just as you were saying in the game info previously that these teams hadn't yet secured any of those objectives throughout the tournament thus far. They lose first blood at 17 minutes 55 and already previously lost first tower. It's just kind of like a small shot in the foot there for Wind and Rain. But JWoww on a comfort pick for himself. It was banned against him previously, by the way. He didn't get his hands on Jace in the previous game because that was banned by Schalke. If there is a game that Wind and Rain could take, it could be this game.
So let's look at their early game then, because they did do a fantastic job last time, but in this composition specifically, Larson isn't going to have anywhere near as much pressure on the Corki as the Corki vs Castin matchup, just because Cassiopeia can just relentlessly chuck out those Twin Fangs. It's going to be very hard for him to sustain, hence going for the Doran Shield as well. Woolite, like I mentioned, against Upset on a non-pushing AD, is going to have a little bit of tough time as well, and Smitty J's got that range advantage over JWoww. Inherently, just the amount of poke potential he does have with a Flame Spitter, that's kind of more of an even matchup, I think, rather than anything else. And it's all going to rely on Memento, where he wants to put this pressure, because Dan, very early, doesn't have much CC. He's only got that snowball to throw out, really. There's not been too much setup in any of his lanes.
I mean, to be honest, Cadril didn't really pressure Larson in that matchup anyway, because he started with the Doran Shield, so he took a very passive start on that Corki. Really relied on the fact that Corki becomes a monster in the late game with the damage that he can output in terms of burst, especially with the changes to that magic damage on the Hex Tech munitions, meaning that he can hit really quite hard. Dan's going to go for an invade. Oh no, he's not. It's on his own side. Forgot that Dan is actually on the blue side this time.
No invade, he's just going to take his own blue.
Oh, he's invading his own blue there, Jaws.
Oh boy,
what a move.
What a play. Game number 2 going some more of a spicier route. But now Woolite and AOD, they are pushing in Upset and Noskaran, especially with that range advantage over Noskaran. It's going to be very hard for them. Hitting level 2 on both sides now. Upset still just being forced underneath this turret. Both junglers now on the top side though. with Memento taking his red and Dan opting for that blue buff. They are going to meet each other, but Nunu versus Rek'Sai, it's not going to happen. Nothing really exciting.
Nothing, not a duel that Dan wants to take. Again, Nunu, not a dueling jungler. Better at impacting lanes, trying to find positional advantage for ganks, and then also just clearing out those neutral objectives where he can, with Nunu just eating things up.
Eating the camps away.
What is the Yeti? I always forget what the Yeti's called. Wait a second. No, it's just going to use a devour. What's the Yeti called? I always forget. Is it Wallop? It's Wallop, isn't it?
It's Willem?
Willem, that's it.
Willem?
I was close.
Maybe. Hang on a minute. Kadra might be in trouble. Dan's going to march his way into that lane. Kadra just digging the level 4. Snowball. That's going to be Larson just dashing forward as well. Kadra taking a fair bit of damage, but isn't too scared of the Nunu burst or Larson bursting him out.
The Nunu burst.
Oh, yes. That Snowball straight into the melee attack. If he goes challenging, Smite. Does hurt a fair bit, but he probably won't do that this game. It's not solo queue.
It's red buff really that does most of the work for Nunu in terms of damage in the early game. Once he loses that, you just don't really have the same level of damage on your ganks.
Absolutely not. I mean, with the first Drake being the Cloud Drake as well, even though Dan does have a lot of pressure on those neutral objectives, which you saw him performing very, very well last game. We saw 3 Drakes early on for them and very, very good vision control too. You can imagine now he's going to want to take that Cloud Drake early. Not too much contention from Schalke. He could imagine, just because, you know, it's Cloud, doesn't really matter too much. If it's going to be an Inferno, it's going to be a mountain, then yes, Memento's going to want to try and put a lot of pressure there. But other than that, I mean, just getting a bit of vision down is going to be all important, because Dan, not many gap closers, not too much gank potential like you mentioned, is going to be more there to facilitate his team. Something
that we didn't really talk about with Nunu is it is difficult for him to get enemy vision, vision down in the enemy jungle in more precarious positions like deep red side jungle, because unlike Rek'Sai, can't escape as easily over walls, has to take long road exits through those exits marked in the map, and it's very easy to collapse on a Nunu in the jungle. So Dan will be kind of limited to what he can achieve in this early game. Again, he's there to facilitate Cogmore. Again, this very early rotation coming out from Wind and Rain, trying to make this happen, get that pressure onto the Rumble.
Blast Cone straight over. Memento's going to be here. Dan actually flash snowballed Smitty J, the ultimate form of CC. JWoww does use the hammer to the skies, and Smitty J's going to go down. And War finally secured their first blood of the season. Memento comes in, has to flash away. Cadra's going to be here too. AOD's going to make sure JWoww's nice and safe for that lantern. But War finally finding that first blood thereafter.
Take the very quick early rotation, but Schalke respond to it quickly as well. A lot of summoners burnt just to get first blood, and it will not net them the result of a top lane tier 1. Wind and Rain now executing the same strategy they did last game, and Schalke are wise to it. Off the first back of their bot lane, they head top, and Schalke already there in the top lane ready to contest. So basically flipping the map on its head once more. No net advantage about first blood gained here for Wind and Rain. It's interesting this is the play that they're making. You can't help but feel it's to allow JWoww a little bit of a reprise in his matchup. Because, like you said, it's a difficult matchup for Jace to play into because of the shorter range on his ranged form in the cannon form. It means that Rumble's quite easily able to get Flame Spitters down.
Yeah, there's Electro Harpoons just taking it to him now, but he has got Serrated Dirk, so he's got that little bit more lethality in his build, so he's going to be able to chunk through those cloth armors.
Well, he's going towards Seeker's Arm Guard, you imagine, and then he'll work towards penetration on that Rumble. Likely not going to complete the Zhonya's just yet. We'll just rely on the armor that the Seeker's Arm Guard provides to see him through.
Dan now, by the way, is soloing out this dragon. Did end up backing off there, you can see on your mini-map. Oh, hook. Oh, hang on. Where was that going, AOD? Upset still taking a fair bit of damage. That flay away onto Noskaran, who did devour a minion in the end. Upset is going to use that expunge for a little bit of extra damage. Now Memento is looking for Dan, or at least some vision. Dan has spotted him out, though. We'll be able to just make sure he's nice and safe.
With the fact that this is now, I think, Cloud Drake as the first Drake of the game, this rotation means that, you know, with the advantage that you have in the lane shove for Woolite and AOD right now, they may put more preference on Rift Herald when it spawns as an objective that they want to try and collapse on. They may think that Rift Herald is more important than a Drake early on here. And I wouldn't be too disinclined to disagree, especially when it's something like a Cloud Drake. Another engage here, but nothing will come of it. It was only a hook onto Noskaran, and like you said, early game Cogmore, not a huge impact. Both AD carries finishing up Berserker's Grief as their first item, by the way. That makes sense for Cogmore, obviously, when the attack speed's so important.
Mento may be looking for a little something here. Does have Void Rush, has hit that level 6. And I'll have you know it's actually pronounced Pugmore, not Cogmore. That skin is absolutely terrifying.
You said this before, I think it's quite
When he
cute.
activates his attack speed steroid, he starts barking.
It's cute.
I don't know, man.
Is it not cute?
We have very, very different forms of cute, I think.
Look at it, it's like a little...
Oh, it's terrifying. Doesn't even look like a real dog. He's like a little T-Rex. Spray and Pray actually opened up from upset here. Does get hooked. He's going to get flayed into the turret. He's going to get ignited as well. And might be another kill. Woodhype picking up that one. AOD just making sure Upset knows his place in the lane.
What a great hook from AOD right there. Turns things round, and again, that presence of Memento on the top side of the map, that they were aware that he was there, allowed Dan to go and solo out that dragon. And again, this is something that also that might be the result of a lane swap. I talk so much about Rift Herald, this completely escaped me. Nunu's ability to solo these kind of objectives. By rotating your top lane to the top side of the map, you immediately, especially in a winning matchup, or a matchup that you shove, you draw pressure from Memento to the top side of the map, expecting that you will be looking for a tower dive at some point, so Memento will want to be around that top side of the map. That has allowed Dan to solo the dragon for free because, again, pressure has been drawn away from the bottom side. That's another tactic that I think maybe comes into the play here for Wind and Rain when they've got this Nunu on board. And that's a very intelligent and interesting play because we didn't get to see it last game because so much action did happen when they rotated that top lane up. But this was a little bit more steady and stable. And once they had a wind of the fact that Memento is in the top lane, they rained down on that dragon.
Well, Medic did actually funnily mention you did very well. Oh, God. Smitty J is going to lay out that red carpet, is going to use that scrap shield to get away. JWoww isn't going to have too much follow-up, but Kadril is going to be here to actually pop the ghost. Larson is going to get grounded, is going to get healed. Nice look away from the petrifying gaze. Kadril's going to chase him up, but a flash away from Larson is going to spare his life.
Good rotation from Kadril. I've been so impressed with the way Kadril has responded, by the way. He's been such an influence in these games. Another big hook here.
Hook into Boggs. Woodhipe's going to get exhausted. There comes the absolute zero. Noscaron popping that great HP as well. He's going to swallow Memento, and Woodhipe just pressuring Schalke now in this top side. Like you said, that early kill really helping him. Has only got 2 extra daggers over Upset, but doesn't matter. Still an extra half an item towards something that Upset doesn't have. And now, Medic jokingly mentioned the lane swap earlier. It's not the lane swap from old, where you'd swap top, bottom, top. Hang on a second, they're going to get a hook. Can I ever talk? No, because Noscaron's actually going to save my point here. He did jokingly mention the lane swap, but you aren't wrong. That Rift Herald is so much more of a priority now with Dan on this Nunu. I think War played this map perfectly. They bandaged up their early game so well. And I want to see War now just translate this because Woodlight has a lead on this Cogmore, even a small CS advantage as well when this turret, when he clears out this wave and this turret actually, this wave actually lands into that turret. Well, Upset's going to lose a bit. He's lost both summoners, so he has to play safe in the lane now.
Woodlight just misses all the CS just on his way out.
I know, I won't talk about it. We won't notice, buddy, don't worry. Oh, God.
Good moves, though, by Wind and Rain. It is something that you don't often see too much of, these early lane swaps these days, but I mean, Wind and Rain have found a tactic to make it work, again, with Nunu's ability to solo those objectives and to put a bit of preference on Rift Herald if they can get advantages in a winning matchup. It's an intelligent play from them, because again, it's not, like we said, not something you often see these days, especially early on. Usually you at least wait for first tower to go down the bot lane before you make these kind of rotations. Looks like Memento waiting to impact this bot lane. This is exactly what they did in the last game, by the way, with the pressure drawn to the top for Wind and Rain. Schalke just responded and said they're going to push down the bot lane and pressure on JWoww, and they took that first turret from this situation.
Yeah, JWoww knows.
He knows, yeah. I think he's not going to fall for the same situation twice, although Memento is sticking around, does have his ultimate as well, and with Smitty J having the equalizer available, JWoww is very, very careful about this. Yeah,
you can tell with Smitty J just walking around the turrets and attacking it from the opposite side that the minions were doing. He knows Memento's in that brush. Use that acceleration gate, that shock blast to clear out the back wave of minions. And Dan's not here this time. He's actually rotated towards the top side. He's going to use Hammer to the skies though. Smitty J laying down the red carpet. JWoww's going to flash away from it. Smitty J is going to tank a couple of those shots, but that will be the first kill going over to Schalke. That'll be a nice little reprise now for Smitty J.
And again, they caught War in this situation where War were not able to capitalize on their rotation to take a turret very easily. And the winning top lane matchup between Smitty J and JWoww, it was the same in the previous game. The winning matchup Memento capitalized so nicely on it by putting pressure onto Smitty J or JWoww under turret and then just taking that turret for free.
Arf, 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 says Woolite.
It's so cute.
I don't know about that, especially when it's not got, especially when it's got 2.5 attacks a second. That's definitely cute. I think the voice line would just kind of crack at that point. Schalke, by the way, secured both tier 1 turrets in that bottom lane in both their first game and their second game. Larssen getting jumped on here. That grounding is going to come into effect. Kadriel with the Ghost, Memento with the Void Rush, and Larssen is going to find himself going back to base. Memento hiding over that wall and now pressuring in and making sure Kadriel is just getting ahead on this Elise is now his prime priority. Going full stacking items as well. Dan can't really do much to this wave, and that will result in about half of that tier 1 in the mid going down.
The solo laners have been the issue for Wind and Rain thus far. The solo laners have really struggled. Larssen and JWoww have had tough times capitalizing on their matchups, and Kadriel has synergized and Smitty J have synergized so well with Memento in searching for advantages in the 1v1. And Smitty J, it's almost like a deja vu of the last game. They replicated the same tactic that they took and managed to capitalize it on exactly the same way. Memento's good presence of mind to make that kind of move here. And Dan, you know, he needs to be more aggressive. He needs to literally walk up into lane, tank up some Twitch basic attacks, go and try and dive tower. Larssen also not making early moves to try and force a four-man tower dive in that top lane. Larssen's stuck in that mid lane, and it's something that he has been criticized for in the past. He does sometimes just sit around in the mid lane, not making moves to the side lanes, or in fact, so when he does make moves to the side lanes, not the right side lanes to move to. You know, he moves to the bot lane where, with that lane swap that took place, with the advantage that Woolite had, might have been better for him to try and pressure the top.
I mean, Kadriel did the exact same thing last game, using that package to varying levels of effect, we should say. Larssen now doing kind of the same thing. He's sitting in the lane with Kadriel, just farming away, just clearing out the waves very, very easily like you're going to do on the Corki and Cassiopeia matchup. Kadriel did make a roam to the bottom lane a couple of times, but Larssen not doing that. Didn't even use the package. It actually just it wore out. It just faded away, and he's just going to go back to farming in the mid. And now JWoww, he's got one turret down. Smitty J just chunking him with that flame spare. Does have the equalizer, but isn't going to commit it just yet. With that dragon being up as well, says Dan, I don't want it. I just want this Rift Tower instead. But Noscarin is going to be able to spot him out here. We'll see what the response is here from Schalke.
Memento is making his way up. Kadriel tentatively looking for an opportunity, but this should be Rift Herald going the way of Dan. Didn't look like Schalke were in a rush to try and compete and contest that. And Larssen is kind of stuck in this mid lane, by the way, simply because of the wave shove from Kadriel. I mean, Larssen just can't push this Cassiopeia back. JWoww now the target once more.
Oh, flash and knock up. He's got the Cinderhulk. He's got the damage. The Void Rush comes through as well. Memento finds a solo kill on JWoww. No Smitty J there to help him.
Titanic Hydra, boys.
Oh boy. He's got the Cinderhulk. He's got the Titanic Hydra. Did think that was the Jungle Iron, but I misread it. Ignite onto Upset in that top lane will force him out. And now Dan and Woolite, along with that Rift Herald, is going to be able to take out that first tier 1 in that top lane. But regardless, Schalke, they're going to make a move, and they're going to make a move very proactively and take that down that tier 2.
Upset is doing exactly what you said Upset is very good at doing. In bad matchups, he's always able to clear waves, always able to keep himself safe, and with Noscarin on Tahm Kench, that makes that even better. Kadriel pops the Ghost here, desperately trying to clear the waves off the back of this Rift Herald push, and War look like they are making moves to force the issue. Larssen should be able to get a couple of basic attacks off, but the zoning potential of the Cassiopeia will keep this tier 2 safe and hand the first dragon of the game over to Memento. Second dragon of the game, because it hasn't been registered. 2 Cloud Drakes, then it was just a Cloud Drake that confused me, because Dan got the first one. Of course he did.
That he did. Faster Nunu, better Nunu. And in that little engagement there, Woolite actually was attacking Noscarin for half of that. You can imagine if he focused the turret, he'd have actually got it down, because it was very low. JWoww has been fine by Memento again. The knockout is going to be there. Titanic there as well. Woolite actually saving him with the heal. Memento now very low. Smitty J's going to have to retreat as well. No summoners. Woolite's going to come through with the barrage. Can he make something happen? Acceleration gate. The barrage is just on hitting, but AOD is flash. There's the flay. Rocket to find the double kill as well. Larssen comes in the nick of time to steal those kills away from Woolite.
And now this should should be a good opportunity for Wind and Rain to push onto this bot lane tier 1. Yes, Smitty J might teleport down to it. Yes, Kadril might go and try and clear it, but they should be able to get something from this situation. An overextension from Smitty J and Memento. I was just about to praise the synergy that Smitty J and Memento have shown. This is exactly how Schalke kept themselves in the running in the last game. That ability to put pressure on JWoww in the side lane. But a little bit too much pressure has resulted in War finding a way to gain some gold back on the map. Upset's going to be forced back by JWoww in the top lane here as well. Already got that Ghost Blade, by the way, JWoww, so... And now got a bit of better dueling potential.
And the worst thing is, JWoww didn't die either. Yeah. He didn't go down, he didn't have to blow a teleport. Willight came in with a clutch heal, and that'll be another turret. That's a tier 1 going down to War. They're setting up 2 turrets, 1 dragon apiece now for each of these teams. The gold has been closest it's ever been, only 1,000. JWoww using the acceleration gate. Noscaron and Upset. He's going to let out that rat-a-tat-tat. JWoww's going to have to flash. He's going to get devoured though from Noscaron. Upset, is he going to be able to finish off the last hit? Yes, he is. At least they even up the scoreline now as well to make it perfectly symmetrical. And now Schalke have that advantage of JWoww possibly blowing that teleport to get back to the lane in time. Not choosing to push that tier 1 on the top though.
Yeah, they can't see the rest of the map here for Wind and Rain, so they don't know exactly where Willight and AOD are. On the health values that they were at, they felt a bit more comfortable just backing off in that situation, as well as the fact that Dan only just revealed himself. A little bit too risky to stick around and push that without any vision of the blue side jungle realistically there for Schalke on the Wind and Rain side, so they make the sensible decision and back off. They maybe could have pushed the turret, but it's on full HP. They probably wouldn't have got it on that first push anyway, so safer to stay away. JWoww has been the leak for Wind and Rain so far. He has been the sort of the element of the composition that has been giving away most of the resources back to Schalke, and that has been an issue for him, an issue for Wind and Rain in general, especially on such a sort of an important pick as the Jace, where you want to have that ability to be able to function in the side lane. He's now in a position where he's never going to be realistically able to split push versus Smitty J, because Smitty J will always have the advantage in that matchup for a good few minutes now that he's got the Ninja Tabai there, he's got the Seeker's Arm Guard and the Liandry's completed. JWoww is going to be the limp leg of the Wind and Rain composition for the foreseeable future. Well,
Memento's treated this Rek'Sai like it wasn't even changed. He's been all over the map at every stage of the game. JWoww, like you said, has been so pressured that now he can't just face up against Smitty J, who's now got the Liandry's. We're 20 minutes in, and the game is very reminiscent to game number 1, with War having a very clean early.
Yeah.
But the problem is Schalke come back swinging, fighting, and just picking on one member such as JWoww. You get the Jace behind, he's really going to be only an acceleration gate for Willight to use. His shock blasts are going to do as much damage if he can't get some items online. It's only completed the Ghost Blade, and that's a very cheap item to boot as well.
The one issue that Schalke are going to face this game, they did have the remedy for last game, is that they've only got Noscaron this time round to protect the Twitch in teamfight situations. Difficult otherwise to protect the Twitch functionally. You know, you can zone with Smitty J, you can zone with Kadril, but Dan for the most part will soak that while his team does the damage, and there is still a hyper carry on Willight's side of things as well. He is on that cog more, he will be able to function very, you know, if not as effectively, similarly effectively to the Twitch in the late game. And also the fact that you've got a lot of poke to contend with too, so those Devours might be used in a less urgent situations. You don't have that Renekton to soak damage this time round. It's a little bit more coordinated from Schalke this time round. They need to make sure that they are able to land everything in the correct position. There's no longer the bailout of just having Renekton tank all the damage and then eventually getting Twitch into the right position. So you don't quite have those get-out-of-jail-free cards that Schalke had in the previous game for their late-game team fights, and War have brought a bit more to the table with their own late game this time as well.
Let's touch on the mid lanes again. We talked about Kadril, this mid-lane player, went to Korea, boot-camped himself, and really is just showing absolute prowess on this Cassiopeia right now. Even in this lane where he's got 0 kills, has still just managed to pressure Larssen out so much and concentrate Larssen into this mid lane, making sure he can't roam, which you mentioned previously was one of Larssen's kind of weaknesses in that regard. His inability to make these massive plays on this Corki, which can have a huge impact if he uses the package correctly. War are going to siege up this mid turret now. 5 members, they're going to need it at this point. AOD sends out the hook, goes a little wide, but doesn't matter, because Willight is going to be able to secure that turret. And now that opens up the map for War, and it allows Dan, so he did very well last game, to get this vision line pushed up.
You don't need to make those big plays necessarily on the Corki though for Larson. He can literally sit there and spam R and Q and still have impact in these team fights. So, you know, this is kind of where you think that War are going to have a better time of it. You don't need Larson to dive to the back line. Larson can very safely position as a team fight based carry. Upset goes in.
Upset goes in big, and he gets taken out by Larson. Red carpet is going to land now. Smitty J is going to be the target. We're like completely protected. He's burning away, but it doesn't matter. Petrifying gaze on two people. A double knockoff from Memento as well. Cajal comes up big. He finds one. He ends up picking up in a second piece as well. Woolite's just trying to exit this fight. Cajal with a triple kill, and Woolite the only left member alive for War. Cajal over the wall. Ultimate straight into a double knockout from Memento. They just turned that fight completely around.
What was that ultimate from Cajal? Was that a 4-man or a 5-man stun with it? It was a big, big stun from Cajal, perfectly drawn into by the Schalke lineup to give them now both tier 1 turret and the dragon off the back of it. That was all Cajal right there. Upset. You know, he went a little bit aggressive with the submarine twitch. Not quite at that late game build where he's going to blow someone up instantly, and it was so easily capitalized on by Wind and Rain. But Cajal, what a beast! Coming in at the very, very end, turning things around and kept them locked up for so long as well. And key targets in the meantime also.
That's the only word to describe him. What a beast. Cajal the beast. He's on a Cassiopeia, which is kind of like a beast, but he's coming online now. This is the big hitting point for this Cassiopeia. She's got Morellos. She's got a fully stacked Rod of Ages. Void Staff, that tier is coming up as well. Let's look at this replay. Look at Upset, completely alive. Larson takes him out, and then
There was a poor start to the fight for Twitch, but look at this. They all run straight in. Cajal is a 3-man. He gets a 3-man on the front line, but it's important because he got that front line. And Woolite, again, without the front line, able to defend him, unable to get a good position. I mean, that was just fantastic. They were all on such low HP as well. Cajal able to just execute perfectly there.
War split up at the end of that fight. Cajal came in, he just laid waste to all of them. Using those Noxious Blast, obviously you get the speed up when you hit the Twin Fangs. Just ran them all down. Dan's got very little MR at this point in the game.
I mean, look at his build as well. He's at Rod of Ages, he's at Tier, he's at Void Staff, he's at Morellonomicon. This is big item spikes at Cajal right now. He is gonna be hitting hard. He's gonna be starting to pierce those resistances built up by the Wit's End, the Hex Drinkers, and the Locket of the Iron Solari for the... It's not... Yeah, no, sorry.
It's not enough. There's hardly anything on the side of War. You got the Locket, yes. The Hex Drinker, yes. Wit's End. Here goes Memento from maybe another kill. Rat-Tat-Tat opened up by Upset. Expunge as well to follow up. Is this going to burn away with that poison? Or is going to cough his way back to the base at this point? Schalke maybe looking for this Baron. They're going to clear out this vision now. And with Smitty J's red carpet up, that equalizer with Upset's ultimate down. You know, you've got that to fall back on. Cajal does have Petra engaged. JWoww stepping a little bit too far forward. Here comes Larson over the wall just to make sure JWoww stays alive. But JWoww having to flash there. Walks up to an unwarded brush at half HP and finds Upset. Here comes the red carpet. Oh, nice play. There's the box as well to slow all the members of Schalke down. Hook goes a little bit wide. Cajal in the front line, very low. Does use that ghost to be able to just subvert a lot of that damage. He's going to back off the fight here, but still, trading health bars, something you mentioned earlier, is very, very important for Schalke in securing these vision lines and neutral objectives.
Yeah, nothing they can capitalize on though. They can't go for the Baron because, oh, wait a second, Noscarin overextending here.
A little bit, pops that grey health, that barrage not quite finding him, flashes out of the way. Cajal did there and did use the Noxious Blast and the W to be able to just subvert a lot of that damage. But regardless of that, you look at Schalke's build and you say, okay, so there's a massive team fight composition, but War say, you know what, we don't want a team fight, we just want to take Baron.
Okay, that was I mean, it was a risky move by War, and I'm glad they're backing off here. I think they thought that with Smitty J's equalizer being down, you lose a lot of the team fight efficacy from the Rumble. But Upset has already got his ultimate back. Cajal's already got his ultimate back. That was too risky for War to go for. I think they thought they'd done better than they had in terms of, like you said, their health bar trading. And now Schalke are going to go clear their own vision lines out. They're actually going to go for Baron themselves, and now War are going to be the ones to have to respond. It's a game of Baron at this point in time, and Smitty J takes that front line.
Yes, he does. Does have equalizer up in a couple of seconds. That's going to be a hook onto Noscarin. There comes the absolute zero, but it absolutely does zero damage. Dan having to back off there. The heal actually does come out from Upset to make sure Noscarin stays alive, but War do make sure that Schalke cannot take that Baron at this point in the game, and that will be a very, very big advantage for them, and will mean Larson is in the mid lane pressuring that tier 2.
Yeah, he should be able to get a bit of damage down. If the Cogmore comes very quickly, which he is, they might even get the tier 2 off this push. Looks like that's going to be the case here. Clearing those waves, and they are getting a little bit off that Baron dance. A small net win here for Wind and Rain, who are still behind in gold, by the way. It always seems to be the case as top lane tier 1 gets traded by Upset. Again, absolute zero from Dan. Doesn't necessarily need to do damage. Wait a second, they're going for Baron once more, and again, no vision on it. Wind and Rain making the same mistake they made last game, not respecting the quick Baron taking potential of a Cassiopeia and Twitch this time. And the Baron goes straight over to Schalke. From, again, lack of vision and lack of respect for how quickly Schalke can take these neutral objectives, especially with the Mountain Drake taken too.
Both sides can take neutral objectives extremely quickly. Dan obviously on the Nunu. But the problem is, if they don't have vision down, which Dan was so good at doing in the early game, they're not going to be able to spot out these massive takes and just massive rotations from Schalke. With that Baron buff now, they're in exactly the same position, like you said, as the game number 1. They can just siege up these turrets. Upset can hit rat-a-tat-tat, spray and pray over and over again underneath these turrets, chunk people out from war, because he's got 3 items. He's at breaking point for this Twitch. And he's got the Wit's End, he's got the Guinzos, but that's more of a sustained damage build. Guinzos needs a little bit of time to build up and ramp up into these teamfights, but when it does, it can be devastating.
And again, you're not going to frontline for Cogmore to make those stacks on. So if there was a big tanky frontline, Cogmore would be able to stack very easily that Guinzoo's going up. Very easily get into the midst of the team fight when he's already at full power. This time round, he's got to get ramped up on something like Memento or Smitty J, very mobile targets, very difficult for him to continuously get those stacks necessary. He's now got the Knight's Vow on the Thresh, by the way, and that's replicated by a Knight's Vow again on Norskerin. Well, like, a little bit aggressive here. We'll get tracked away.
Yeah, Upset actually flashing forward with the Pray and Spray. Dan taking about half HP, does smite a minion away, just making sure you can't get it. Flash Petrifying Gaze, there goes the Miasma, there goes the Red Carpet as well. JWoww is going to join the fight. Shock Blast does hit the back line, but Woolite is going to have to base now just because of the amount of HP he's on. He's both summoners as well. Larson had to blow the heal as an extra to that little fight. Once more, the pressure coming out from Schalke with this Baron is all too real for War.
Very zealous attempt to take this mid lane tier 2. Larson going to get
flash, knock up into the Flame Spirit, does take the Lantern away. Nice flame on Memento. Is going to use that Void Brush, but it's not going to be enough. Double kill for Woolite as he comes back from the base. JWoww on the sidelines is going to make sure that Cadril cannot join the fight. Double kill for Woolite. He's on 306. Late game Cogmore is going to come online if Schalke aren't careful.
40 seconds though, and Larson has picked up the package. This could be a move for War to take the first inhibitor of the game. They only have Norskerin, Upset and Cadril to deal with for the next 30 seconds. What was an aggressive move for a tier 2 could result in an inhibitor loss for Schalke if they are not careful here.
Yeah, Memento very, very aggressive in the flash knock-up to get punished completely by AOD, who's had a fantastic 2 games on this Thresh already. There goes the inhibitor turret in the mid, and there goes the inhibitor. War have cracked the base of Schalke.
They committed so much for a simple tier 2 tower, and Mento has shown on this Rex side that he has the tendency to be over-aggressive in these kind of situations. Showed it against JWoww in the early game, has shown it here against Larson in the late game too. And a simple mistake by Schalke has resulted in a tier 1 tower take. And, sorry, a tier 3 tower take, inhibitor tower and an inhibitor for Wind and Rain. This is the best they have ever done versus Schalke. They need to continue this momentum as it looks like Schalke are looking to respond with their own inhibitor, are going to shove this so quickly and so readily with the Baron buff as well.
Yeah, Baron buff hasn't got long left on it, so they're making the most of it. Larson with the wave clear is going to be enough, actually, just to make sure Schalke don't come up anywhere close to it. AOD goes for the hook, goes a little bit short of Smitty. And now is War's time to come back into this game. They have that lane pushing in the mids. And Dragon's going to be up in about, I'd say, 3 to 4 minutes. But with 2 Earth Drakes on the side of Schalke, War still, you know, you could say this is a 50-50 battle. The pressure advantage is in their pocket, but Schalke, they've got the teamfight potential.
Yeah, but Woolite is getting more and more scary as the game progresses on this Cogmore. 304 CS, working towards his next item. QSS comes out as well, so even if he is locked up by, let's say, Cadril, really the only person you're probably concerned about, can get out of that very readily with that QSS, maybe work towards a Mercurial Scimitar after that. Very safe Cogmore at this point in time.
Cadril and Larson both very, very good Cassiopeia players.
Sure.
K-Drill has a 10 KDA on Cassiopeia, not counting this game. So both of them really taking their hands on a comfort pick and really making it work. 3-0-2 right now. He's got the Seraph Embrace online. He's got Rod of Ages online. He's literally at that point now where if anybody from War steps up to him, Miasma, dead. No problem for them. Grounded, you know, my team can follow up without too much of an issue.
That is the one issue for Wind and Rain. They don't really have many people to soak up that zone potential of the Cassiopeia. You've only got Dan that can do that for you. So with Cassiopeia's ability to control zonal areas of the team fights, Wind and Rain might find it difficult when they get locked into a full-on 5v5 to actually come away with a victory, because you've got to have Woolite safe in almost every circumstance, and the fact that Upset can get more team-wide damage done compared to a Cosmore's very solid single-target damage. So full-on 5v5s, you still say that Schalke might have an advantage here, but they are going to get a good rotation onto this tier 2 in the bot lane. Again, catching Schalke off guard with their rotations are Wind and Rain in the late game.
Yeah, Schalke were just wandering around the mid. They were getting vision round Baron, which is something they should be doing right now, which they have done. So pre-setting up that vision and sacrificing a turret for it in the bottom lane is pretty big, but if they get their hands on this next Baron, that will be the base cracking you could imagine from War.
I don't think Wind and Rain are going to make the same mistake again with the Baron that they made for the last 3 times, including the last game as well. The vision control and just, again, not respecting how quickly it can go down for Schalke, and you can see they're already gearing up to move themselves into a position to contest this Baron up in 55 seconds. Elder Dragon will be up in 2 minutes as well. It is going to go past that 35-minute mark. JWoww has to be careful.
Mr. Void's just going to come in as well, but he's just going to get caught in amongst 4 members of Schalke. You just said it. You just said War. They're not going to disrespect Schalke, and JWoww was just caught way too far up. They're going to take another turret off the back of this one too. That top tier 2 is going to go down in a couple of hits. Oh, Larson gets there just in time. Absolute zero. Absolutely nothing. Memento is going to be able to tunnel out of that one, and now Upset, popping that invisibility. Going to be able to 2-tap that turret without too much of an issue, you can imagine.
He's managing to dodge a lot of the poke here. Upset comes in onto Larson.
Oh, he does. He finds a lot of damage from Woolite there. Has to get devoured. It does spot the heal again. Upset going very, very aggressive. We saw this in game number 1, and we're seeing it in game number 2. Not hesitant at all to bro, spray, and pray, and just get up in the faces of Woolite. But it does blow the heal.
We talked about how good Larson's poke will be against this Twitch. You saw it just there. Forces the devour from Niskaran before a team fight even takes place. They're going to go straight for Baron. They have a very limited time period. The teleport coming through.
Here comes the equalizer teleport, but it's not going to matter because that Baron is just going to go straight over to Schalke. War couldn't even step inside the Baron pit, let alone take a fight. Yeah, like you said, so quick. K-Drill and Upset just chewing through it.
Double Mountain Drake, Twitch, Cassiopeia. Neutral objectives like Baron and Elder Dragon will not survive very long against this type of team.
Dragon's up in 20 seconds as well, and will be an Elder Drake coming online now. War setting up a little bit of a death brush here, maybe hoping Smitty J will come in through the jungle to get some vision down. Dan, it couldn't quite handily solo out that Drake. It will take him a little while.
They are going to get him.
They might just get him. I think they will. They're just going to jump straight on him, finally executing blow.
Why did you use the box?
Make sure he doesn't escape.
I think you can kill him just off the hook.
Very true, but regardless. War going to start on this Elder Drake now. It's a 4-on-5 situation. Woolite is going to be able to chew through this one. Like I mentioned before, it's very, very easy for both of these teams to take these neutral objectives. There we go, Elder Drake over to the side of War, but with only 1 dragon in their arsenal, it's not going to be a massive momentum boost like you'd see if Schalke took it.
2 neutral objectives taken off the back of 2 top lane catches. And we talked about the fact that JWoww has kind of been the limiting factor for Wind and Rain in this game. He has been the factor that has kind of stopped them accelerating a game plan. He did give away the Baron by not respecting the advanced vision line of the Schalke lineup and the fact that realistically Wind and Rain did not have control of their own jungle at that point in time. But Smitty J did the same. I mean, you have to think that, you know, they're setting up for that Elder Dragon given that you just backed off the Baron. He walks right into a key area for a catch and just gets taken out and hands over the Elder Dragon. But Elder Dragon, much more difficult buff to make work, you have to say. Much more difficult to make work in your favor because you need to force a team fight him. Same issue that we had in the last game. Wind and Rain don't really have the potential to force a team fight except for Dan walking up to someone or AOD making a hook. So it's very difficult for them to actually use this Elder Dragon buff.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a lot harder to make it work because you don't have those minions powered up. That's the issue. You can't just make those minions stronger, healthier, and harder to kill. You've only got that teamfight prowess. Memento's going to get found though. Snowball is going to hit him. Memento taking very little damage right now. Black Cleaver, he's got the Cinder Hulk, he's got Titanic Heart, just a lot of HP on his side as well. But War now, they are going to pressure Schalke. They've got to make use of it somehow. Well, and that's exactly what they're going to do.
Larsen's doing the work. Larsen hitting those missiles is getting a big amount of damage onto, especially Twitch. And this is something that we talked about in the pick and ban phase, that it's a lot easier to pressure a Twitch with poke before the fight even starts, to stop him from getting those positions with his ultimate. And you're seeing it work so much for Larsen this game. He's been so good. Woolite has been fantastic, yes, 307 on the Kog'Maw. He's been an excellent performance. Excellent performer for the Wind and Rain time. But Larsen has been consistently landing damage onto Upset before these fights break out, making it very difficult for Upset to do the kind of plays that he did last game. And without the benefit of a front line here for Schalke, they can't be as aggressive as they were in the previous setup.
Upset doing a little bit of scouting of his own. He's going to be able to find Woolite. He knows where JWoww is as well. There's the spray and pray. JWoww's going to be able to get out. Expunge to follow up. AOD actually almost falling to that one completely.
I just said he wasn't able to be aggressive. There he is, being aggressive.
Exactly that. It's going to take a couple of turret hits though, regardless of the fact. Now Schalke, they are being very aggressive here, but War's Dragon buff, War's Elder Dragon buff won't last very long. In fact, it's only just come off. And again, it's a big neutral objective for War or Schalke to take, but not having the dragons in your arsenal, it's just not working out for them whatsoever. And now Schalke, once again, more on a level playing field than they ever have been.
Upset took a lot of damage in return from making that move, though. You saw a couple of shock blasts, a couple of rockets from the Corki, and he was suddenly sitting at about a 5th HP. That is the kind of play that he needs to be careful of. Taking an aggressive position does open up the firing line for these pokes to just deal the damage necessary to blow him up. And now War are going to start to group up again. Again, War do want to try and teamfight. They have got great teamfight control with the Nunu. They can isolate people using the Absolute Zero. If they can keep people slowed, Woolite can pretty much blow them up with Larsen. So they are pretty happy to enter a siege situation with this poke because they know that they are consistently able to shove waves and get damage necessary onto Upset to force him out of the fight.
We proposed the question, is this the Schalke from last split? And at this current time, I don't think it is. They're not as clean as they were in the first game, not as clean as they've been. Memento maybe looking for a little something here. He's going to spot a couple of members of War over the wall using a Tremor Sense. They know he's there though. Void Rush is available, but it has been tagged onto Dan. JWoww using that acceleration gate for the disengage, but Larsen again, like you said, is just landing these rockets time and time again. And he's in that build where, and at the point in the game, well, he's just doing so much damage to the front line. It's very, very hard for Schalke to actually do anything if they don't have a frontline tank like a Renekton. Instead, they got Smitty J, who's just been hooked, he's just been flayed, he's just been boxed. Absolute Zero is not going to land. Dan's going to snowball Upset away. There comes the red carpet. Now look at AOD. He's in the front line, and now Larsen just making his way up. Smitty J having to flash away out of the fight, out of the way from Woolite. He'll from Woolite is going to be able to secure the kill, but Mentor's going to be able to trade that one up. Kadra in the front line now, petrifying gaze. Is they going to hit anybody as Wind and Rain find themselves a triple kill? Woolite getting the ending kill there with his ultimate, and with Larsen coming back up big, this could be it. Excalibur, I think this will be 1-all to War and Schalke. With such a perfect early game from War yet again, the Nexus is going to fall and Schalke crumbling.
Larsen and Woolite so good that game, but Dan seems to have found a home on this Nunu as well. AOD making some absolute game clean.